This is how to use AI to literally become smarter than 99.999% of people. And I promise this is not clickbait. This is not, a catchy title. I promise you, once you understand this, you will have a massive competitive advantage over everyone else. So if we imagine like 100,000 years ago, right? Like 100,000 BC, right? When we were like Homo sapiens and living in like little tribes, right? Now, the people who were the smartest people ever, the people who were smarter than everyone else 100,000 years ago, were the people who just learned from experience, right? Who just learned from their experiences. For example, like if we were living 100,000 years ago, we were walking together, and we were walking in the same place like every day, like in this like jungle or whatever, right? And me and you were walking together, right? And you trip on a rock. And it hurts, of course, you trip and it hurts, maybe you fall on your leg or something like that. But we come back the next day and you see that rock and you tell me, oh, yesterday I tripped on that rock. So let's go around it and that way we'll not trip. And I learn and you learn because I learned from your experience. So you learned from experience and I learned from your experience, right? And congratulations, we learned. And that's how humans, Homo sapiens, have been learning for most of human history. It's just through experience, right? But then around 3000, I believe, 3500 BC, the world changed dramatically because people started writing on stones, on walls, and we started expanding on writing and writing and writing, and now people can learn through the writing of other people, right? And we go into the first century and the second century and the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth. We go through all these centuries, right? After Christ, of course. And we see books are becoming more and more available to people. Right? People are writing things like manuscripts, for example. The blacksmith teaches people how to, like hammer the sword or something like that. Through writing. The mother who's cooking for like 7 or 8 children teaches other women how to cook through writing. For example, the philosophers, they write how they see the world through writing, right? And that way, humans can learn from other humans through writing, through reading. So now, we not only learn through experience, but the people who learned like in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh century, right? The people who learned from their experience and from reading other people's experience were smarter than 99.99% of people in that era, right? But then, of course, in the 17th century, I believe, Johannes Gutenberg invents the printing press. And now, books are becoming so available. You can, instead of, having to write like tons and tons of pages by hand, and now you have this printing press, this machine that makes like 10 pages or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 pages for you. You can now create books and it's way easier through Gutenberg. And now books are becoming way more available. And the people who, of course, in the 17th, 18th, 19th, even century, the people who learned from experience and from books were the smartest people, were smarter than 99.999% of people. But then in the 21st century, so our century, the internet came out. And now you have millions and millions and millions of people on the internet. Now you have billions and billions of people who are sharing their experience, who are sharing what they learned, who are sharing how they do something. I know this is about AI. We'll get into it, I promise, in just a second here. But I'm just explaining, the history of the people who are smarter than 99% of people. So, people who learn from their experience, I'm talking like in the 2010s, right? The people who learned from their experience, who read like so many books, and who watch content. So this was us before AI, right? And who watch other people's content and learn from other people's content were the smartest people in that era, in the 2000s, 2010s, right? We're smarter than 99.999% of people. So let me just go through it briefly. For most of human history, we learn through experience. The people who learned through experience the most were the smartest people. Then, after 3000 BC, people who learned through experience and through other people's writing on stones on walls were the smartest people in history. And then in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th century, that kept going on, right? But then Johannes Gutenberg came, and books were so available to other people, right? So the people who read the most books, so people who read like 100, 200, 300, 400 books, and who learned through their experience were the smartest people in the 17th, 18th, 19th century. And then in the 21st century, internet is invented, so the people who learn from their experience and read 100, 200, 300 books and watch so much content, so learn from other people's experience, are the smartest people in history. But now, in 2022, specifically in that year, AI chatbots are invented, ChatGPT comes out, right? And I believe from 2022 until today, 2026, the people who learn from their experience and learn from reading books and learn from content, so other people's videos, and learn from AI will be smarter than 99.99999% of people and will be the smartest people in history. And this is how to use AI to become smarter than 99.999% of people. Synthesizing. So basically, you are the mind, you are the brains of the entire system, but you have books, you have your experience, you have content, so other people's content, and you have AI. Now, before AI, what me and you used to do, so what creators used to do, is we used to, like I said, we had to learn everything ourselves. We had to learn through experience. We had to keep, looking at every single book in the world. You had to look at every single book and, go into the specific chapter and things like that. Now, the thing is, every time one of these amazing inventions come out, it makes it harder for the majority, but it makes it way easier for the minority. Does that make sense? So for example, like learning through experience, 100,000 BC was very hard, right? You had to learn through every single. The only way to learn was just through your own experience, through your life. That was the only way to learn. But then after 3000 BC, and in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th century, now not only can you learn through your experience, but you can also learn through other people's experience. So life is easier. Life is way easier for you because you not only learn from your experience, but you learn through other people's experience. And then in the 17th, 18th, 19th century, now we have books. We have 200, 300 page books that are full of people's experience. So it makes life easier. It makes life way easier. And then in the 2010s, the internet came out and we have tons of people sharing their experience. And now you can actually search for what you want. So instead of, having to go to a library and searching for the specific title of the book, and you don't even know if like the certain chapter is going to have the solution that you want, and like there are many problems, now you can actually search on Google or Firefox or Internet Explorer or these places on the specific problem that you have, and it will give you a solution based on what humans have written. But there was still a little bit of friction. You had to go through the sources, so every single source, every single article to learn, and there was a little bit of friction. But now, after 2022, after AI came out, and today in 2026, AI is the most advanced it has ever been. And you literally ask it whatever you want in plain English, and it responds to you in plain English. And it's not complicated at all. Like it can explain it to you on whatever level you are in. This is what Naval Ravikant talks about. Brilliant guy, brilliant human being. AI can literally explain anything to a 3-year-old, to a 4-year-old, to a 5-year-old in plain English. You talk to it in plain English, it responds to you in plain English. So every time one of these inventions come out, it makes learning exponentially easier. And it makes life easier. But the way to become smarter than 99.999% of people is through learning through experience. In my opinion, of course, is learning through experience, books, content, and AI. Now, how do we actually use AI to become smarter than 99.999% of people? Basically, become the smartest people in history, right? Because we have the most information ever in history, right? The way we do it is, the way I do it personally is what I like to do. What I like to do, honestly, is I like to open ChatGPT and Gemini and Grok and Cloud and ask each one of them the same question. So, for example, you know, and I don't really understand like the idea of prompt engineering. Like I don't really like prompt engineering because these are AI chatbots. Like anyone who understands how these AI chatbots work, the way they work is you just ask them in plain English and they respond to you back in plain English, right? And they can explain anything to you. They're basically like humans. You just talk to them in plain English, they respond to you in plain English. That's it. So I just asked the question normally, but the same prompt to ChatGPT, to Gemini, to Cloud, to Grok, those are like my core 4. And whichever one gives me the best answer, I continue with that one and I see, you know, where it goes. That's the way I do it personally. And I find that's the best way. It's kind of like having like 4 of the best mentors in the world. Like you have 4 of the best mentors in the history of the world, not even the world. And you ask each one the same question and each one gives you a different viewpoint. I think that is the best way for us to use AI, right? And this is what will give us a massive competitive advantage over everyone else, especially if you're like a content creator or you're like a synthesizer or you're an entrepreneur. This will give you a massive competitive advantage over everyone else. But the key to using AI to become smarter than 99.999% of people is through synthesizing. So even if you like to use it like me, this is the way I learned this from Naval Ravikant, is just asking each chatbot. And I think there are even softwares right now that you can just type in the prompt and it gives you the response of ChatGPT, of Gemini, of Cloud, of Perplexity, of every single chatbot. I don't really remember what it's called, but it's an amazing platform. Like if you use AI on a laptop or on a computer, it's amazing. But yeah, I think that's the best way to use it, is through just asking each chatbot and getting every single viewpoint. But you are the brains, you are the mind, you are the person who is rationalizing all of the information it learns and creating a framework or creating an equation or creating like a way to understand the world, basically. You are manifesting a framework, basically, right? I'm gonna give you an example just to make this simple and understandable, because I know this is a bit complex, but like for example, if I want to be the best at the gym and building muscle and maximizing, muscle and strength, right? What I do is, of course, I go to the gym, so I have my own personal experience, right? And I read as many books as I can on muscle and strength and the science of building muscle and other people's experience and natural and enhanced bodybuilders, and every single book on bodybuilding and Arnold's Encyclopedia and Mike Mentor's Heavy Duty and magazines and science articles and all the studies. I read everything I can. And also, I watch all the content creators. So I watch like people like Jeff Nippert, Jeremy Ethier. They have amazing videos. Mike Israetel. I watch all these guys, all these fitness, science-based influencers. And at the same time, I go to AI. So I go to Gemini, I go to Cloud, and I go to ChatGPT, and I go to Grok. And I ask each one of them, how do I maximize muscle strength? What is the best way to progressively overload? And I get each different viewpoint. And I get all of this information and I rationalize it and I basically synthesize it into steps or a framework or core principles or first principles, basically. That is how to be smarter than 99.99% of people. And this is what will give us content creators a massive competitive advantage over everyone else. Because we're literally using AI to be the smartest people in history, right? So I think that's the best way. And the thing is, most people will never do this. Most people will never, ever do this because they're just too lazy to learn. They're too lazy to become smart. You have the four greatest sources in all of human history of learning, of becoming the smartest the person in history. And people will just use one source, which is AI, which is the newest source we have, which is just AI. People will just use that and ask it, whatever they want and just get that answer and just live, right? What about your personal experience? What about other people's personal experience? What about books, other books, right? What about content? There are so many sources to learn nowadays. It's insane. So yeah, I think that's the best way. Is you are the mind, you are the brain. You have four different sources: AI, content, your personal experience, and books, right? And you get all of the information from all these sources. You rationalize it into core steps or framework or principles, and you basically become smarter than 99.99% of people. I think that's how to use AI to become smarter than 99.99% of people. And I promise you, bro, it is so fun. Like, learning for me now is just so fun. Like reading books, like obsessing over a certain topic. It's just so fun for me. Like obsessing over what do women desire, for example, obsessing over maximizing muscle strength, obsessing over meditation, obsessing over mental health, obsessing over physical health. I love obsessing over these topics and just obsessing over every single source, learning everything I can and rationalizing that into 4 steps. People think, here's the thing, like AI is the greatest synthesizer in all of history, right? It has all of the information, basically almost every single thing humans have ever written in history. AI chatbots have. So people thought, this will replace synthesizers, this will replace, content creators, because that's our job, right? Is we get basically every single source of information and we rationalize that into steps. But the thing is, now the synthesizers who are going to use the 4th pillar, which is AI, are going to have a massive competitive advantage over everyone else. They will be basically some of the richest people in the world. These synthesizers, because they know more than anyone, right? So yeah, that's what I think, at least. That's what I think is the best way to use AI to become smarter than 99.9999% of people. And as always, we're in this together, and we will make it.